You can't hear me if the microphone's not on. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Walter Bosley channel on this Friday night episode. I am sorry to be so late. Maliah and I had just some unexpected, various sorted crap pop up at the last minute and in the last couple of hours, for prep and everything. So we're running a little late. But you're here, and that's okay. Actually, we did choose to delay it for that first hour, um, because we too were watching Dark Journalist with Joseph Farrell. We have to admit, I had not realized Joseph was on talking about that interesting subject, and so we kind of decided, hey, let's move it back an hour. And then the additional time was because of, just things that pop up. So thank you for your patience. Hey, Paul Reedy's in the room. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Ari's here, Johnny Side, Philip Blair. Maliah, of course, will be joining me soon. She's in the room with you guys now. D. Dorothy, Nick N., Crypto Alchemist, and who? Gringo Fett. Okay. Well, tonight's subject. Let's get to it. As you guys know, time travel is one of my favorite subjects. Time phenomena in general are something we talk about a lot here. And probably at the present time, the most compelling story of a possible time traveler that I have ever encountered. Okay. The John Teeter stuff had nothing on this because, the John Teeter stuff was bullshit. Okay. To use a phrase that I used to use a lot here. This is a true mystery. Now, I, of course, am referring to Charles Howard Johnson. You recall that Todd Wood and I wrote this book together in 2020, I think, right? Pretty sure. Yes, we did. This was after I did 6 months of chemo. I did this, and Confessions of a Spooky Mind released both of these that same year. And then you know what I did? Just a few months. In fact, I was working on this while I was still doing chemo. Huh? How's that for determination? And about 4 months after finishing, you recall, I built that fence, that big section of fence. Yeah. So anyway, so this book, 2020, if you recall, we talk about the Ingersoll Lockwood book. Okay. The marvelous underground journey of Baron Trump. And if you recall, the whole thing was, what the heck was that? Oh,
it's me and the thing.
Here she is. Maliah has joined us. So, the big thing was that the Ingersoll Lockwood books appear to have predicted the emergence of Donald Trump on the scene and his election and all that. When you look closely at the books, they really have nothing to do with his election. They have more to do with really the current president and administration. When you read particularly 1900, The Last President. Anyway, the prescience about Trump, and very specifically about his youngest son, Baron Trump, is in The Marvelous Underground Journey and there's 2 books that feature young Baron Trump. And the illustration of young Baron Trump by Charles Howard Johnson is an uncanny resemblance to little Baron Trump in 2016 when his father was running for president. And so, you have to wonder, how did Ingersoll Lockwood know this stuff? But more to the point, how did Johnson know what little Baron Trump was going to look like? So it sparked a whole discussion. Todd and I go into it in this book, and we're going to be discussing this tonight and some other details, developed since then. It sparks the whole discussion and why we go into time travel in this book. Okay. Now, at the time we wrote this, there was less out there about Charles Howard Johnson than there is now. Okay. What do I mean by that? Really, not much more details at all. But there was no photograph of him when Todd and I wrote this book. Okay. He was a complete mystery. There has since been posted on the Wikipedia bio a photo that is alleged to be Charles Howard Johnson. And it's in the graphic of this episode. If you go look at the graphic that I posted a few minutes ago, that's him. That's the face of Charles Howard Johnson. Now, to give you some background, if you haven't read this book, Charles Howard Johnson, let me get the glasses on so I can give you the details. I'll give them to you real quick here. Okay. Now, if you want to know all the details about the Ingersoll Lockwood stuff, this book will be available, I think, again, starting in a few days.
Yeah, we got to reset it.
Yeah, we're going to reset that link. Yeah, much better.
Now you can hear me, right?
Yeah. Okay, illustrator Charles Howard Johnson. I told you about the striking example. The question Todd and I ask in the book back in 2020 is, did Johnson receive special knowledge from Lockwood or Lockwood's source of said knowledge? In other words, we ask in this book, did Ingersoll Lockwood have a means of looking through time, or did he have a source of knowing, what would happen in the future? Or was Johnson himself Lockwood's source, right? Is this all a coincidence, okay? Or is it otherwise explainable by more mundane things? The answer to the mystery could be in looking at Johnson himself, which is what we do in this book. So let me give you some details so that you know who we're talking about. Charles Howard Johnson, possible time traveler. Charles Howard Johnson was born in 1867 or 68. No one is certain. He may have been born in Kansas City, but no one is certain. He was believed to have studied art for 1 year in Cincinnati, Ohio, but again, that's simply what he said. No one is certain. The one thing that seems to be corroborated by those who did know him is that he indeed arrived in New York, at least as far as they knew, in 1889, and was soon employed by various magazines and publishers. Now, Johnson's illustrations indeed appeared in Life magazine, Truth magazine, and Munsey's magazine. It is known and documented that he illustrated 10 books. He was respected by his colleagues, yet he remained a mystery to them. They would talk about this. He had been married and had a daughter, but his wife died in 1894. And at the time of writing this book, we couldn't find anything about the child at all. And since then, apparently, we found that her name was Gladys. So unless that was the wife's name, I'm pretty sure the daughter was named Gladys. As far as this source I just saw minutes before coming on tonight. Where am I? Okay, so he was engaged, Johnson. This is after the wife died and such. He was engaged to an actress named Elita Proctor Otis. I thought maybe. Oh well, we got pictures of her in here. He died of what they called brain fever on the 3rd of July, 1896. And even in his obituary, okay, it is mentioned that no colleagues ever verified that Johnson had ever studied art. And yet he was a successful illustrator. Um, you can find a modest assortment of Johnson's illustrations in a search online, but not much else. Johnson claimed that his father had operated a grain elevator in Atchison, but there was no luck in confirming this. Neither could we find a grave site for Johnson. Okay, he was alleged to have died in his home where he lived in New York. So we have to look at Johnson's works. Okay, is there anything in these works that could give us a clue about him, what he might have known, and how he could have had such, a prescient vision of this child's name and what he would look like? I mean, he illustrated the Baron Trump books, over 100 years before young Baron Trump was born. Okay, there's no way to explain, other than coincidence. Now, I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, Maliah, but I quit handing things over to coincidence, a long time ago. But he did a couple of works that we did take a look at. One of them was titled "The Lady of Shalott." Okay, and he also did an 1894 illustrated edition of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's Evangeline. Now, when you look at Evangeline and you see its association to the Arcadian culture, folks, region, who the British, you got to love the British, forced them out of their homes in northeastern Canada, and it was, a lot of them were in Maine as well, and they were just run out. They were forced out because the British decided that they wanted the land. Kind of sounds familiar. Yeah. So they ended up going on this journey down the Atlantic seacoast, and they end up in Louisiana, many of them in New Orleans. Now, when you pull all the threads to Arcadia and Evangeline and all of this stuff, you come up with links to Napoleon Bonaparte, Nicholas Poisson.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
It totally goes to Napoleon.
Right? Napoleon Bonaparte, Nicholas Poisson, the artist who did the famous Three Shepherds, also known as Et in Arcadia Ego, that's connected to the whole Rennes-le-Chateau mystery. You get Rennes-le-Chateau. You get... let's see, again, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, whose own personal tomb.
Longfellow.
Yeah. Whose own personal.
A lot of connections.
Right. Yeah. His own personal tomb looks almost identical to the tomb in the Poisson painting. Okay. At Arcadia Ego. Now, here's what's fun. The funny thing, not humorously funny, but Longfellow's immediate family, they were all buried in the family crypt. Okay. Interred there, and subsequent to that, when the cemetery was being moved or altered or something, not one of the bodies was in the family crypt that was supposed to be there.
Oh, wow. That's creepy.
They were all gone. They weren't there in the first place, it appears.
Is it vampirical? Or time travel?
I'm suspecting that it brings to mind Edgar Rice Burroughs, and we'll be getting to that shortly.
Right.
So the question that we come to is, did Charles Howard Johnson see through time, have a way of looking through time, or did he move through time? Had he come from our era and told Ingersoll Lockwood about
what was the
Baron
part
Trump
about Times Station? Can we go into that?
See, there's a photo of Baron Trump. There's the illustration of Little Baron Trump from the Johnson book. And you can look that up online and compare yourself, and it looks remarkably like Little Baron Trump. And then, just so you see, here's the Longfellow tomb, crypt, right there. Okay. Sorry about that. His tomb, I guess I should say. And
You see it?
it's
Yeah.
just like the one in the Poisson painting, the Et in Arcadia Ego. It's a horned tomb. That means there are these what they call horns on the corner. And now, in the book, okay, this is the Union Square Hotel
Oh, there we
where
go.
Johnson died. That was his residence, and he died there. Now, if you'll notice, on this side is a supposedly a replica of the Urim and Thummim device,
Oh, wait.
which
The
are
Joseph Smith thing.
yes,
Yeah.
which are
And the Seer stone.
infamous Joseph Smith allegedly used. Here is the Lady of Shalott painting, right there. Now, what it is that's a cracked mirror behind her. Now, I go into the book discussing what the cracked mirror could represent as far as looking through time. The whole idea of a looking glass technology, not the bullshit looking glass project you hear about on a very popular radio show that used to push the likes of Corey Good and fools like that. We're talking, little L, little G, some type of looking across time and space using a reflective surface. And does this Lady of Shalott reflect some type of knowledge, that Johnson had? Now, let me set the book down because that's kind of, what did I do there? Okay, sorry.
Checking to make sure everyone's awake.
Yeah, sorry about that. So here's what intrigued me with this originally, this Johnson story, is you guys have heard me talk about this before within the context of the works of, this sounds lower since I hit it. Is it sounding okay to you? Oh, okay. There we go.
I can't hear it. You're the one with the headphones.
Oh, shoot. Do you need a pair?
No. It's
Okay.
fine.
Well, you're hearing me.
Yeah.
Because you're in the room. I've talked about, and we talk about this in the book, Jack Finney's book, Time and Again, published in 1970, and it's essentially identical to the remote viewing program. The main character gets recruited by an Army intel guy who takes him to this special project in a warehouse. And in this warehouse, there's all these little cubicles that are made up to be apartments or living spaces from several different eras in history. And the alleged purported or proposed time travelers are in these little cubicles, right?
Mhm.
And it's supposed to be an immersion thing where you surround yourself with the trappings of the target, year in the past that you want to go, and you're supposed to, through the power of the will and the mind, transport yourself across space and time, and thus successfully time travel. And in the novel, this character, Cy Morley,
Which is
successfully,
just like Sylvanus.
yes, Sylvanus Morley, successfully does this. Okay, well, when you think about what the remote viewing project was, right?
Mhm.
It was Army. It emerged during the 70s. Some say in the late 60s. I've asked the question here before: what did Jack Finney know about the secret Army RV program, and when did he know it? Because time and again is describing that program to a T. Or did the program get the idea from the Finney book? The question is, what did Finney know about time travel? Conscious-driven time travel. And then 5 years later, we have Richard Matheson, a contemporary of Finney's, who writes the classic Bid Time Return, which the title got changed for the movie, Somewhere in Time. You're all familiar with Somewhere in Time. They now call the book that. He takes that idea of conscious-driven time travel, okay, and tells his own version of the story, of the idea, okay? And as you know, I've said it before here fairly recently, Seshari and I have done an in-depth analysis of the film and the book, Somewhere in Time, and we came to the conclusion that Richard Matheson also knew something about moving through time and space. And it's encoded and embedded in his book and the movie, even more so in the movie. So, at the time that Todd and I, put this book out, there were those two examples. And then since then, I remembered Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars. John Carter of Mars does the same thing. He uses the power of the mind to transport across time and literal space. Okay. It's the same process. And John Carter of Mars was published in 1911. So what did Burroughs know? Okay. Did Burroughs, my question is, did these three writers know about Charles Howard Johnson? Because look at Charles Howard Johnson's life. He ends up engaged to an actress. Okay, Richard Collier in Somewhere in Time. He goes back in time because he falls in love with an actress. He goes back to roughly the close to the same period of time. Well, not quite, because Johnson was in the 19th century, and then. Collier returns back in time when he dies, and Johnson, of course, we don't know what happened to his body. There's no grave. There's no comment about how his remains were dispensed of. He just dies in his apartment of a brain fever.
Right. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, right. And it resonates with Somewhere in Time. So the point is, it looks like Matheson took the story of Johnson and applied it to his fictional tale. It looks like Finney knew something about Johnson because Finney's story takes place in New York, right, and Johnson's story is in New York. The point is, it looks like these two guys, Finney and Matheson, definitely knew about Johnson. And I go into it much more, a little more eloquently with Todd in this book. So anyway, but with Burroughs, he has John Carter do the same thing. Right. So I have to ask the question, was Charles Howard Johnson moving through time? Was he a time traveler? The only other explanations are coincidence or some other mundane explanation for this. Maybe there is no mystery. Maybe there is a grave somewhere, but maybe Johnson had a reason for hiding his past. Maybe it was not so wonderful, and so he felt like nobody needed to know that. Maybe he came from a very wealthy, hoity-toity, blue blood type of family that looked down upon his choice of life, and he just didn't want to have anything to do with them. He could be buried in some unmarked grave. But boy, when you put all the things together, okay, it sure does make you wonder how Johnson divined or knew what he knew. Was it just an accident? It's the fact that it kind of leaves me stammering, and it's a big mystery. I think justifies taking a serious look at this guy as probably the best example we have at the moment of somebody who actually traveled through time. Now, I think we can travel through time and space right after we die. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's the role Hecate plays as the entity that meets us at the gate to the, after we enter the land of the, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what the Triple Crossroad.
Hang on, let me turn that background noise on before
okay,
our
we got-
audio goes.
Yeah, we got the background noise going to the fan. So, this is one of the things I wonder. Did he do a John Carter of Mars at the point of his death? That's just it. Who knows? And that's just it. But so, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the Union Station, I had
the Union Square Hotel.
Union Square Hotel, because it's kind of like Times Squared is what it's saying. The Union Pacific train.
Oh yeah, Union Pacific Railroad,
the railroad system,
Times Square.
Square.
Kind of the illusions that you could make, the hints.
The recording of time is obviously in this.
Well, and think about too my idea that you can jump through time and space after your death. That sure would take care of any questions and issues of the physical time. I mean, I think we can move beyond the notion of a time machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some impracticalities and problems with the idea of getting in a machine and traveling through time and space. I'm not going to say it can't be done. Some people say that's the answer to the UFO mystery, or part of it. You guys know I don't think there's any one answer to that. But if we are, at our core, we are not these physical people. We are that consciousness and the spirit being, or plasmatic being. Anyway, that could take care of a lot of what's that?
You lost your train of thought there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys, for this choppy presentation tonight. And yeah.
When something comes in right before we start, it's like jolts. It's almost like a train crash.
It's very distracting.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's very distracting.
But c'est la vie.
Anyway,
we were talking
you
about
talked for a while.
Beelzebub and having
Betelgeuse
having connection.
I know people say Beetlejuice. I friggin' hate that. Even before the Beetlejuice movie came out, I always hated when I was in Scouts or something. Beetlejuice, that's the way to remember it. You friggin' nerds. I like the Betelgeuse pronunciation better anyway.
Well, it had implications to Baal Jesus, which is very commonly referred to as Jesus. Actually, it's where we get our pronunciation of Jesus. As many people know, like Hebrew, you don't have the letter J in there, but yet we see in ancient Sumerian a pronunciation of Jesus, or some kind of a Z sounding there.
It's like I said, it's probably where they get the you scared the bejesus out of somebody.
Yeah. Well, in the implications of esoteric magic, a lot of people in history have used this kind of star to focus in on looking or scrying through mirrors. So in that painting, what was it called? The painting?
The Lady of Shalott with the cracked mirror.
Shalott. Oh, it's definitely a Hebrew word. We've got the Shal, which is Shin and Lamed.
Okay.
And then Ut, which is Aleph and Tav, which is beginning and end, is what it's saying.
That's interesting.
It's where we get our word showing, the sh sounding.
Okay. In the legendary story, she lives in a tower, and her only way of seeing the outside world is through that mirror.
Well, it's interesting because that has implications of Rapunzel, right?
Yes. Yeah. A little bit of reflections of that.
We see the same one in, is it Snow White? Snow White, that the wicked
Oh well,
mother-in-law
the wicked queen.
The wicked queen is
talks
using
to the
mirror,
entity in the mirror, magic
who's
mirror
the
on the
most
wall.
beautiful of them all.
Who's the fairest of them all?
Right. How does it go? There's a Mandela effect on it, that they say. It's a Mandela thing. But
yeah, well, a lot of that is people just wanting. Folks, let's face it. In our community, there's a number of people that just want so bad to experience something weird that they tend to get things wrong. I'll be nice about it. No, I won't be nice about it. Some people just make shit up just to have something weird to be a part of, you know. And that's okay. God bless them. They're people.
The chat is being silly.
They just want to have fun. Is anyone caring about the topic tonight, though?
The chat is being silly, yeah. Well, I think, like you said, it's a little disjointed. Let's bring it back to what your first idea with coming up, talking about Charles. Now, the first thing that I got was, the first time I was in Redlands, I saw an entity or figure that appeared very prominently in front of me. And he appeared looking like a child, but a full grown man. Now we've seen this picture and we put it in the thumbnail of the...
Can you pull it up?
I can, if you make me.
Is it that difficult?
A little bit, but not too bad.
Okay, well, you guys can see it in the thumbnail. Yeah. That is Charles Howard Johnson. And I just saw that photo for the first time today.
Well, the thing about the entity that I saw in Redlands multiple times in different locations, one of them being in what I call the Times Square, which is downtown. There's the weird clock system and it's set on a telluric path and different things. So every time I saw him, he would say, "Call me Charlie. Call me Charlie."
I remember that.
Yeah, and he would appear as like a boy ghost and like a small boy, but he was full grown man. So
well, even in that photo,
in the photo, he
looks pretty young.
He looks like a young boy because he's so small of stature.
Well, a young man because he's got the
because he's small of stature, and that's what I was seeing in the ghost and the entity. But just to kind of bring it back.
Are you sure it wasn't Charles Delshow?
Yes, I'm sure. This was a Call Me Charlie, and it was very, I want to say artistic. He came across as artistic, but more like remember I said it was kind of like Charlie Chaplin. There's a joking ghost about him. There's a used to be in front of the audience kind of thing coming across, or like an actor or some of that kind. But then I also wondered too, isn't there a rite ritual that uses the name Charlie?
A what ritual?
Like it's a rite or rite of passage type thing where they...
Oh, RITE, right.
Yeah, ritual. So
I'm not aware of that. That's interesting.
It's kind of like scrying. You hold the amethyst or crystal.
Oh, okay, through crystals. Okay.
And then there's a game that the kids play.
Well, and look at what I just showed you. You know, look at the Urim and Thummim, this device that Joseph Smith was alleged to have used. Now, here's the thing. He might very well have used something like that. Okay?
Oh, he absolutely did.
He did use it, from what I understand. Yeah. I was giving people margin for their own doubt, but he was known to be an occultist and a mystic before he started his religion, before he provided a model for L. Ron Hubbard's scam, by looking at the hat with the seer stones. So this was a man who believed that one could look into other dimensions, be it time, space, or what have you, using crystals and stones, right? And so then he had this Urim Thummim device constructed. You know, did Johnson have some type of device that he used, perhaps?
It's the right era for it. It's totally the right era where that was happening. And in Hampshire, in New York, and these kind of places.
In the book, we go into a couple of things that turned out to be bullshit. The Baird Baird's camera of past events. Okay, Baird Spalding's. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Baird
When
Spalding's
they're going
camera
in.
of past events. It pretty much turned out that he was a scam artist, and it was proven, well within his own lifetime because, well, he got called out on some stuff on a trip, and we might have known because when you read the description of it and what he was claiming, and then there was the chronovisor, Father Ernetti's
That's
chronovisor.
my favorite. I love the chronovisor.
Cool idea, but it turns out that even Ernetti admitted on his deathbed that it was bullshit.
Well,
and the photo he gave allegedly of Christ was a religious statue.
Here's the thing about the chronovisor and why I like it so much.
Okay.
That fascinates the topic of it
Mhm.
to me. Same thing with the Liahona topic is they're saying it's a device, but what if in fact they're coding that it's within a certain individual and its specific psychic abilities?
Okay.
So a chronovisor basically in a person would be able to tell, it would kind of be like telling the future because they already know in a sense what the layers of time could be and could look at it.
Well, yeah, I like the idea of a device that certain people are able to use.
Okay,
that middle
that could
ground.
be it.
I like that.
Middle
like
ground
you got
too.
this
That's not
device,
bad.
but not just anybody will be able to make it work.
Like a certain type of shiny plate or something like that, that if you are the right kind of person and prepared to use it, you could use it to look into time.
Yeah. Or the device reacts to some signal that your, state of being, sends off to it. It interfaces some type of interface signal coming off perhaps your brain or your pineal gland. Which they say, you go through your advanced levels and become enlightened, whatever, you advance yourself up the chakras. And, it opens the pineal gland. Well, maybe maybe there's some legitimacy there that an open pineal gland allows a signal to get through, and that allows the Liahona to work or the Urim and Thummim to work. Anyway, was Johnson using some type of device?
Could have been. Could definitely have been. I think he's showing it in the painting that he was.
Well, that's what I think the cracked mirror, the painting suggests with the cracked mirror, that he was doing some type of what we would call scrying. The level of sophistication, I couldn't tell you, but in the book, Todd and I go into how the cracked mirror, when you look at how he painted it, could even be an historical reference to Joseph Farrell's metaphor.
Which
meaning pre-Joseph Farrell, the metaphor about the three. You have. You're not familiar with the metaphor.
Are you close enough to the mic?
You're
getting a little
for Christ's
far
sake!
back.
Goddamn technology.
There you
The
go.
metaphor.
Get
You're
your
not.
radio
You're not
so-
intimately
there
familiar
you
with
go.
the metaphor, are you?
No.
Okay.
Well, I've heard you guys talk about it. I remember reading it.
I am not even
Anchor,
going to try
if
to
you
explain
haven't
it to
got
you.
that one.
Successfully, at least. But it has to do with two sets. It has to do with an overall set, and a divide is drawn between them. So then you have the this, and then the line creates the this and a that, and the line itself, where the this and then that come together, the line itself is something. And it can often be depicted as creator, destroyer, and it's really wow. It took me a few years to even understand the thing, but once you do understand it, it clicks, and like Joseph said, you see it everywhere. And in the book, Todd and I kind of go into the metaphor a little bit. Is the mirror is the mirror somehow suggesting that the metaphor has to do with being able to look through time. And when you understand the metaphor, one way to describe it is the common surface. That's what the thing is. The common surface between the divine and the human, something that is both. Well, that's part of figuring it out. I won't tell you. I won't rob you of the fun of figuring this out. But this idea of a person, individuals who are able to use a particular device because of something about them, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. That also can be reflected in the metaphor, because we are the common surface. We are both mortally human and divine. That's a big secret that we're not supposed to know. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's a state which you can advance to, just simply starting with understanding, that concept. Okay. And then maybe it's the common surface upon which these devices work. Is the point I was very awkwardly getting to, for God's sake.
Your awkward diction again.
Yeah, wow. I don't know about these Friday night shows. I think I've done 2 now that are duds with my performance.
Well, Nick says, like the brains, as Alan Greenfield calls them, possibly membranes. Yeah, Joseph Farrell was talking about that.
Yeah,
too, the
so... yeah, I just...
I'm sorry. It's my fault, probably.
No, it's not. It's me. It's. I went into this with an unexpected distraction. I apologize.
That's my fault.
No, not yours.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So.
What you looking for?
Del Show. But I think I found it.
Is Del Show in there?
Mm-hmm.
Did I talk? Oh, yeah, because did Del Show.
The 1896. Okay, we're told that the 1896. Wait. Let me go back a paragraph so I can get the context.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2. No. Okay. Consider the Titans. Their roster reads like the list of suspects for the speculative Nimza of Del Show.
Mm-hmm.
And a particular subsequent airship mystery sleuth of our times. Military men, industrialists, miners, and manufacturers of alloys. We were just talking about that tonight, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Practical men in pursuit of the extraordinary are usually the ones who make it happen. Might one of them have ranked himself among alchemists of old, or perhaps even an associate of Tesla? We are told in the 1896 airship mystery lore that there was a group of investors in New York and a benefactor from Maine. Del Show tells us in his journals that Nimza sponsored other groups in the U.S. besides the elusive Sonora Aero Club.
Mm-hmm.
Take it away. Do you want to take it from there?
What? Wait, what? Go ahead. You're doing good. We don't know any more about Johnson, so it's all tonight. To notch it back, why are we here tonight if we don't know much more about him? We have a photograph now, okay, and we have Maliah's input. I didn't have Maliah's input when Todd and I did the book, so that's what we're doing here tonight. Was we wanted to see the face of the man and hear what Maliah had to say about this.
About time travel. I have a lot to say about time travel. And, well...
But what specifically about Johnson strikes you?
Believe it or not, the Mission Inn connection.
Okay. Is that where the Charlie figure showed up?
Again, the Charlie figure shows up in Mission Inn, but it also showed up the one ghost of a president in the locations where the paintings of the presidents are
Yeah.
and the empty chairs, empty tables. There's only one ghost of the president that's
Yeah,
sitting
it's the President's Lounge, I think it's called, and McKinley, I think, was the first one, possibly, but several U.S. presidents have
Roosevelt
visited.
is up there.
Well, since McKinley, I think just about all of them have visited the Mission Inn, except in the last few years.
So I find it interesting that Charlie is of the ghosts, and the president Charles is there. Charles Howard Johnson,
Oh,
right?
illustrator.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
No,
are you talking
is
about
it-
President Johnson? That's
Yes,
Lyndon.
Lyndon. Sorry.
Lyndon Baines
Lyndon Bain. Yes.
Johnson.
is the ghost there.
So, Mission Inn, folks, is a very interesting place. It's fashioned on the mission architectural style, Spanish mission architectural style, but it was never a mission in itself. It has always been a hotel done in that style, but it's very interesting in the lore of the history of Riverside, including the Empire of the Wheel stuff. I found all sorts of interesting things relative to the Empire of the Wheel research in there. It's also a really cool place to visit.
Well, I think if there's any kind of location that would be suspect for being used for other means of trans-dimensional travel, it would be Mission Inn.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, particularly the oh my gosh, what
The
is
spiral
it?
staircase.
The what is that called? They call
that
it something.
descends to hell.
I'm doing a complete brain dump. But it has this. You go down to the bottom, and there's a bust of Dante Alighieri, and it's a there's a word for it that they call it, the something.
I don't know.
Well, I wasn't prepared to
I
talk about the
forgot.
Mission Inn tonight,
Yeah,
so
I forgot that one too.
I don't feel bad about not knowing the
Maybe
the
our
word for that.
chatters can tell us.
But there's also the Anne Rice suite,
What's in
because the writer Anne Rice spent time there
Yeah,
while working
well,
on her
everyone.
fiction.
Yeah. So what's in the boiler room or the basement of Mission Inn? Underground tunnels, access to them.
There are known maintenance tunnels underground between the main part of the Mission Inn and the satellite buildings, but there has long been rumored a tunnel connecting the Mission Inn to Mount Rubidoux.
And it does. I totally.
And
does.
I think
I would
there
agree.
is one also for a variety of reasons, but haven't had the opportunity to be shown said tunnel, so I cannot vouch for it. Definitely being there.
I
So.
see them psychically. I can see tunnels
Mhm.
psychically. So that's one of the things I can identify right away is if I'm standing on top of a tunnel. And we went up to Mount Rubidoux after Mission Inn. And there were multiple tunnels leading to Rubidoux and from it.
Yeah, Rubidoux is an interesting place. It's just a few 30-something feet, 40-something feet shy of being an actual mountain, but it's so close and looks like one that they refer to it as Mount
Yeah.
Rubidoux.
It
Now,
can-
you guys know that I think there was a Templar vault inside Mount Rubidoux where Joan of Arc's sword was possibly,
and a dragon that
vaulted.
guarded it.
or something. Yeah.
I think there was a dragon
yeah,
there.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
I need to show you, there's an interesting little collapsed cave entrance that has some interesting
Yeah.
symbolism
I need to show
painted
me
inside there. I need to show you that.
that. Uh-huh. I can't
So-
believe we missed it.
Well,
Lord, I'd like to
it
see
hasn't been, what's the word? We haven't had a good opportunity for me to show that to you yet. So that we will do that soon because you need to see.
Mhm. Miss Jonaside says, in Riverside, there is a very mystical area. It definitely has a feel.
Yeah. According to Gordon Northcutt, the guy who was convicted and then hanged in the 1920s for the Wineville chicken coop murders, when he was first arrested, he told the arresting officer, and I think the district attorney's representative or a DA, actually, that he was abducting the boys, the victims, on behalf of wealthy men in Riverside. And that when they were done with the boys, they were given back to him, Northcutt, and he could deal with them however he wanted to. He chose to sexually abuse them and then chop them up with an axe.
Chop them up into pieces.
So God knows what these wealthy men in Riverside back in the early 20th century were doing with these boys. We can unfortunately imagine. But it scared Northcutt so badly that he then changed his story. Now, this is after he's in jail and in a cell, and there's all sorts of cops around and stuff. You know, how could anyone possibly get to him? Well, wealthy men, you know, have ways and means to take care of people who talk about things. But here's the interesting thing is, what would he fear they would do to him? He knew he was going to be hanged. He knew he was on death row anyway. So what could they possibly threaten him with that would scare him so badly? Was it something otherworldly? Was it some afterlife belief? You know, possibly. Who were these men and what were they into?
Well, now that we've seen the photo of Charles Howard Johnson, who do you think, or would you say he has a likeness of somebody living today that could be suspect of a time traveler?
Well, I'd have to look at the
image. Do you want me to pull it up?
I can do that. I can just pull it up in pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Remember the last.
Oh, yes, you're
saved.
right. There he is right there. Okay, if you guys go to the thumbnail.
I can share it.
You can?
From there, yeah, as long as you have it open.
You know, in some ways, he looks like Tom Hardy, the actor. In other ways, he resembles a friend of mine from high school, the guy who showed me the alleged entrance to a suspected tomb inside Mount Rubidoux. Buddy of mine named Stan. Stan, if you are Charles Howard Johnson, having traveled through time, I've figured it out, buddy. You gotta come clean.
Where did you put it?
In
LCR?
go to. Well, I just had it open in conception art. Yeah, that's Butch. There he is. Oh, okay. If you look in your upper left there, there he is. That's Charles Howard Johnson, folks. That might be the face of a man who has traveled through time. If it's possible, we have to consider it. Mm-hmm. You guys know that's my motto. If it's possible, if it's one of the possibilities, it must be considered. At the very least, you might be looking at the face of a man who had a way of looking through time and space, you know? And why was he so secretive and mysterious about his past? Is that because he had traveled through time and he didn't want anyone to know it? Was there some type of authority out there that would have nabbed him or he would have gotten in trouble with? Would they have thought he was insane and he was afraid of ending up in an asylum somewhere? You know, who knows? And if he could do this, what others could have done it? You know, maybe he did it on a carousel. Ooh. There's my plug for my novel, I Will See You in Time.
The best one, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I love that one. Although Devil's Mill comes close. If you guys don't know about Walter's pulp fiction, check out Devil's Mill, definitely. Rocket Shall Run Out is a good one too, but there are quite a bit of pulp fiction if you like adventure, crazy.
I like them all. But,
see inside the weird
House of Ka. House of Ka got me a good review in the pulp world out there when it was released.
Yeah,
I mean, I was kind of proud of that because you know they can be hard asses. And I got okay reviews on that. But I like to think that Charles Howard Johnson is a time traveler. And I'm, I would propose or suggest that maybe he does it with this at the moment of death method that I think is real. That, I wonder if I've done it. And if I've done it, I think everybody could do it. I really, if you've never heard me talk about this, the Hecate's Crossroad method of time travel. When you die, okay, in your spirit, let's say spirit, soul, consciousness, you go to that other dimension, okay? You encounter Hecate, and she's there at her crossroad, and she gives you an option. You want to go back and relive the life you just ended? No. Do you want to go into the future to your next life, to a new life? Okay. No. Oh, you just want to stay on the one path and stay in this dimension for a while. That's what I think your three options are. This is what I think, folks. Okay. This is hypothesis. I'm not telling you I know for a fact that this is true. I'm basing this on suspicions I have, based on a lot of weird experiences and analysis of data and stuff. I think it's possible that you can relive the life that you just lived. Okay. Maybe Johnson did that, or maybe he lived initially he was alive during the 2016 period when Donald Trump was running, and he died sometime after that and chose to go back. And that's how he knew what he knew. Okay? That it was some type of glimpses from the murk, so to speak.
Okay. I remember you saying about that.
Glimpses through the murk. Oh, Trump, Baron Trump. Okay. Ingersoll. You might want to write a story about this, or Ingersoll Lockwood's got a story he's telling. He knew Johnson through publishing contacts. Mm-hmm. And he's telling Johnson about, hey, I got this story about this kid, blah, blah, blah. And Johnson says, you might want to think about this, add that. What are you going to call the little boy? I don't know. Call him Baron Trump. Oh, okay. And maybe Johnson isn't clear on why. It's just an intuition.
Yeah, I think you're onto something.
And yet he had, what's coming through is his memories of having been 100 years.
Well,
in the future.
It's the 100 years point that makes it, okay, that's feasible. It's fitting within the 50 and the 100.
Because of the Hecate numerology.
Of the perfect sevens.
Well, that too. But the Hecate numerology, the number 100, is expressed through her very name. 3.
Actually, it breaks down to 3.
Right. Well, okay, there's the 3, but there is literally the number 100, particularly in 2 sets of 50, are also linked in Hecate veneration.
Right. So, because that's the calendar according to the but real
what you just said about 100 years, that fits the Hecate numerology, so even that serves to possibly corroborate or suggest the argument I'm making that Hecate gives you the 100-year window.
Yeah, it's a 100-year thing. That's why that's in necromancy as well.
But then again, we're talking about a guy who was allegedly born sometime around the 1860s and was around and witnessed in the 1890s. So that means he would have had to have died under this idea. He would have had to have died in the 1990s, and that was way ahead of the whole Baron Trump thing. So, that kind of...
You're getting really low on the volume.
For crying out loud.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
not
just
you, it's
noticing
me.
it.
I'm sitting back going, hey,
That
is it
chair's
talking and
banging
thinking.
a
And this
pillow or
chair leans
something.
back
Yeah.
pretty far. So do you see why this is so fascinating with this Charles Howard Johnson guy? And we really just started on looking at him,
Yeah.
in thinking about the mystery. Now, tonight I said to Maliah that what if when we do this reliving of the life that just ended, we go back in time, specifically in the life we just ended in particular. Doesn't have to be. What if being fully aware that you've done this when you're reliving that life, what if it brings with it problems, either psychological problems, emotional problems, or practical problems? What if you have the option to accept it being kind of clouded and foggy so that you're not encumbered with the burden of the full knowledge? In other words, my 61 to 16 thing. I've lived this life before and I died at 61 years old. I chose to go back and relive my life, so I was able to go into my 16-year-old self, okay? And that would explain all the deja vus I've had since I was 16, but yet I'm not quite sure that I did this. What if I chose to be not quite sure because of problems that come with being, like, for instance, if I'd known for sure when I woke up at 16 that morning, I would have known for sure, oh my God, I've done it. I've jumped through time. I'm back in my 16-year-old body. I would have known that I was a 61-year-old consciousness. And I would have gone through all those teen years in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and on and so forth, knowing full well that I had jumped through time. Okay. So what if that brings with it such problems that, you're given the option? And what if that's the symbolic, Hecate offers you the pomegranate seeds, and if you take the pomegranate seeds and you eat them, it clouds your mind, your memory. I think Hecate is at the heart of all this. Yeah.
Well, Nick says the trip through time itself may cloud memory for a given time, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I
Depending.
think with time it fades and you start remembering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
That's something that Sesharia and I have suspected for several years now, is that it does fade. And even my mentor told me, I asked him, what happened to me that night I woke up that morning, Sunday in December, a Sunday morning in December of 1979, and everything was different. And I knew it. And I had asked him, years later, what happened to me? And he said, I'm not going to tell you that now. And then finally, when he did tell me a little bit more, I said, seriously, what happened to me? And he said, you will soon figure out what you did. He told me this in the late 90s, about nearly 20 years after it happened. He said, there will come a day where you will figure out what it is you did. And I'm like, I did something? He goes, yes, you did. And he goes, you'll figure it out. And after that, specifically in the year 2014, is when Sesharia and I really became confident that
makes
I
sense.
figured out what I did. And then my uncle confirmed it in his way. That's what he was talking about. So that was big. And none of you have to believe this. I crossed that Rubicon a long time ago. Since 2010, see, this is the amount of flying F that I give to people who, I don't believe you, Bosley. You don't have to. It doesn't change anything for me. And it doesn't change anything for you non-believers, because I'm not saying this is true, send me money. Okay. There's a difference between me and other jack-offs in this community, as we know. I'm not saying this is true, I'm special, send me money. I'm just telling you what I think I did. Don't have to believe me. Go ahead.
Well, it's kind of the thing about us in our pairing together, both psychically and strangely, in our birthdays, and we think that there might be something encoded that we made a joint decision to do this thing, and by us actually crossing paths, and both of our research of mine from 10 years ago, from 2010, starting in 2010, really it starts at birth, really, with our kind of lives. But I got thrown into the middle of the Alma Reed research in 2010, which means right down into Yucatan, into Sylvanus Morley, into Thompson, and of course leading all the way back eventually to Catherwood, because Reed is following the steps of Catherwood, looking for the lost Atlantis. And that's kind of the running theme of Edgar Rice Burroughs as well. And what I mean by our research paths end up colliding, and with Alma Reed being in San Francisco, same time
At a place.
is going on, and she's knowing these, what we know now to be intelligence.
I'm glad you brought up Burroughs.
Before intelligence, yeah.
Because I remember now what I wanted to, why I
Oh,
brought
good.
it up.
We can bring together
Here's
the
why I
disjointedness.
think Burroughs. Here's the clue why Burroughs. I told you why I think Finney and Matheson knew something specifically about Johnson and this time travel with death.
Right.
Okay. John Carter of Mars in the beginning, his nephew, who in the story is Edgar Rice Burroughs himself, younger version. And if you've seen the film, which by the way is better than they said it was, he has this very special tomb, the lock of which is on the inside, and his body is laid out in there. Well, obviously you get it figured out while he's in another time and dimension. His body is laying in state inside this tomb with the lock only on the inside, obviously so he can come and go. Okay. Now, did Burroughs know something, say, about the Longfellow crypt and the Longfellow tomb? In other words, if Longfellow's family was found to not be in, now, not just one member of the family, none of the immediate family that was supposed to be in the family crypts, okay, family crypt set there, was there when it came time to move the cemetery. Their bodies were just not there. I got to ask the question, is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's body inside his tomb? That you can find online. Go look it up. There's a picture actually in the thumbnail for the show.
What's the name of that movie that goes along with that? Isn't there a movie?
You mean
Sorry,
John Carter of Mars?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
right?
John Carter. Yeah.
That was the one.
So was Burroughs saying that he knew or suspected something about the Longfellow situation? In other words, did Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, through some understanding of the Nicholas Poussin painting, okay, Three Shepherds, which, by the way, overtly, when you look at the painting Three Shepherds, okay, the three men, young man, middle-aged man in his prime, old man, yeah, that represents one single man at the different stages of his life, child, adult, old, okay? There's even a skull on top of the tomb, the horn tomb, to represent, this is where you're going. The skull, is the next step for him. Now, in the original version in both versions of the painting, there's this female figure. Okay. Go look at it yourself. Go read the details. It's Hecate, folks. It's Hecate greeting, the old man on the other side of death. All right. So, in an understanding and a study of Nicholas Poussin's painting, Three Shepherds, did Henry Wadsworth Longfellow figure something out, learn something about this time travel at the point of death method? Or did he learn something even more fantastical about, faking one's death, for instance? Did he teach this secret to his family members? Is this why their bodies were not in the crypt they were supposed to be in.
Mm.
You know, is his body indeed in that crypt? That's my question. You know,
Yeah.
that's, the questions we ask in the book, and it's the question I still ask now. But I'm kind of excited that we finally have a face to put to Charles Howard Johnson, because,
Me too. Because
it-
that's interesting.
I'm a little surprised that he agreed to sit for a photo.
Are we going to talk about other people who might have sat for a photo?
Oh, well, I was on, folks, I'm on an upcoming interview on Forum Borealis. I don't want to take away any thunder from that.
Right.
But we talk about a particular historical individual I have written about, and the fact that even though he was around well into the era of photography and other, famous people getting photos, we're not aware of any photo of this individual. And that's going to be upcoming on Forum Borealis in a couple of months, probably.
Well, isn't he about a month, he said, right?
About a month, yeah, I guess. Okay. So it's interesting. Again, this is all conjecture, this is all speculation, but that's what we're left with when a guy leaves behind such a delectable mystery as did Charles Howard Johnson. Was he a man from our time who found a way to go back? Did he jump back in time? And the time travel at the point of death is just one suggestion. He could have, Johnson, there could be a way to will yourself physically, okay, to, so to speak, dematerialize. What if you could dematerialize in one time and rematerialize in another, kind of like a transporter beam? But
that would make suggestions to plasma.
Because,
right?
well,
That
think about
plasma
think about it. We're told that he didn't die in a hospital. He didn't die in any public place. He dies in his home. Okay, and there's no known gravesite. Okay.
Okay.
So where's his body? If he was able to dematerialize in this time and space, there wouldn't be a body to bury. What? She thinks it's ridiculous. What?
I'm weird.
Well, yeah. That's why you're here.
I think. Gee, thanks.
No, I mean.
I think that the concept of more than one possibility, speculating that is totally feasible. I think it's ignorant to say this is the only way that this could have happened, because that doesn't encompass, well, what about what if Joseph, here's a thought I thought, what if Joseph Smith's martyrdom, the big famous tar and feathering, including being shot in the back from a jail window, what if he faked his death?
You know me, I love stories of people who fake their deaths. Juan Cabrillo, I think, definitely.
To get out of the trouble he was in, because he had created quite a bit of trouble for himself. And some sources say he was about to, well, he was already in jail. So could it have been his brother, Hiram, that they actually
so he pulled a
killed
Napoleon and did a switcheroo with the brother?
Maybe, right?
That's, you get, if it's possible, you got to consider it. It would make sense in
his magic background that he would try something like that. Or was he trying a jump through time, which in the Mormon background, that could mean he would have landed in 1980.
What I love about discussions like this is it reminds me how glad I am that I'm not just a pure old materialist with a certainty fetish. I like having discussions like this. I like to consider the possibilities. I'm not, I'm not one of those guys who, has to rain on every parade just because
Well,
he's not certain. There's got to be certainty.
Well,
That
it's about
life
fear.
would be boring.
Those kind of people are very afraid.
Yeah.
They're afraid of something being outside of the mold of their understanding.
Or the realm that they can, outside of anything they can grasp.
Right. And, I mean, there's all kinds of people in this world, so that we need all kinds to.
Oh yeah,
to
the materialists are
around.
useful because they make things like bridges and medical science and the useful utility things that the rest of the people, particularly people with actual imaginations that carry humankind really forward and make the giant leaps. We need the materialists to fill in the blanks. We need the materialists, to just fill in the, what am I trying to say? Fill in the potholes on the road to make sure that, and they serve a purpose.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
I was trying to not go full on into a rant about, skeptic materialists, but it's really difficult to control oneself.
Don't make me walk around your triggers. Because
triggers.
No, not you. I'm talking in general.
Oh, yes.
The world, in what we were talking about before. It's now, it seems the attitude is I must know all of everybody.
Yeah, you got to know everybody, what's going to
triggers
trigger
and
everybody
what's
else.
going to make them upset, and don't step on my triggers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we like pulling triggers around.
So
here.
yeah, I'm not afraid to have a discussion like we're having tonight. Charles Howard Johnson, possibly being a time traveler, because there is, regardless of whatever the truth ends up being, it's still a mystery. It's a legitimate, bona fide mystery. This guy didn't want people knowing anything about his past, about his origin. He didn't want anyone knowing anything about his departure. I mean, what the hell?
Well, okay, you brought up the Looking Glass project.
Yeah, well, you got to be, you got to be careful to avoid the kind of bullshit that the term looking glass got attached to with the, the crowd that listens to certain popular sources.
Course, that aside, let's assume most of our
audience it's important because,
pretty intelligent.
All it takes is,
I know. Let's define
a ranter. They're talking about this. They're probably writing a book,
Okay, so, but the real looking glass stems out of the, what's the name of it? Where the helmet of God technology. Right?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's voice of God technology, and there was something that the term looking glass was used, and it has gotten abused by like the Wilcock and Corey Good.
Absolutely.
Ridiculous
We're not
John
going
Teeter
there. But there's
bullshit.
I mean,
nonsense.
just like paperclip, there's a million ways of interpreting what paperclip was, and there was a lot of agenda to hide.
Somebody got a hold of something extraordinary as far as secrets go with technology in the late 1800s. Okay. And so these extraordinary things were pursued, and what we have seen of technological advancement during this time now for 150 years. In a lot of ways, there's just offshoot or byproduct of the extraordinary breakthrough of understanding and knowledge. I mean, look at the reports, the excellent reports Daniel List has been doing, dark journalist, over the last few years on just the Townsend Brown related stuff, the anti-gravity stuff, and what a tight lid was apparently clamped down on that in the late 50s when not even public sources would talk about anti-gravity research anymore. Look at the airship mystery. I mean, what happened to those guys? What happened to that technology. Well, interesting that right after that, in the following century, we have the emergence of our modern UFO phenomena.
With your favorite topic, Nevada.
It's been this extraordinary. So who's to say that an understanding of time and space hasn't been part of that breakthrough? I heard stuff from my mentor. He told me in the 90s that time phenomena stuff, there was a breakthrough in that 100 years prior, in the 1890s. So he didn't go into any more detail than that, but that's what he said. All I can do then is pull my own threads, and there we go. So Charles Howard Johnson, we're going to keep looking at him. He's going to be talked about again here, or as Rust would say, again and again and again.
We're almost there. They're almost ready to release it.
Damn them. Damn them if that turns out to not be Rust. I know people look at that trailer and they say, it's not him, it's not him. And it's like, damn them. They're cruel. They are unusual.
Yeah, that's really rude to make it look like it.
It's like, it's got to be him.
It's not.
But
it's probably his dad.
That's possible, but the problem is, in my opinion, the cars and the guns are a little bit later than what should have been the era for Rust's dad. Because when you look at the age Rust appears to be in the 90s, he looks like he's in my generation. Mm-hmm. So the years that he was living with his dad in Alaska should have been, in my opinion, the 70s going into the 80s, or even if it was the 80s. Some of the cars look late 80s, but in my opinion, the guns look a little too more recent to be 70s or 80s.
Yeah. And they have DNA.
Definitely not 70s. Oh, they talk about DNA? Mm-hmm. So it has to be the 8 years that Rust, you like how we segued into True Detective here? It has to be the 8 years that Rust, after walking off the job, with Marty, walking off the job, in 2002 before returning, but again, that when you look closely, it just doesn't look like Matthew McConaughey.
All we know is Pizzolatto says, however you say his name, Pizzolatto says that they're going to go in a direction he really likes in this one. And they're not going to reveal.
Yeah, but this is the guy that thought it was a good idea for the third season to be, well, it wasn't about the case. It was just about the relationship between a man and his wife.
And season
for
3
fuck's
was
sake.
terrible.
I'm sorry.
No,
I don't tune in
about.
True Detective to watch a soap opera about a relationship between a man and his wife. No offense. I've been married twice, okay? Yeah. But damn. I don't watch True Detective. I don't give a rat's ass about a relationship between a guy and his wife.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Anyway, I digress. But it is said that digression is the soul of wit. So there's your little True Detective bit there. Napoleon's coming out. So in just days now.
I know we need to pre-buy our tickets so we can get seats.
Anyway, thank you guys for being here listening to my disjointed discussion on Charles Howard Johnson. Now that we've, introduced him into the narrative for you guys, we can jump into further aspects without having to rehash the background. I think that's part of what caused me to be a little uneven tonight was I really had to lay down some background, and I did a poor job of that. I'm sorry, but this book, the link will be available again to get this book, and The Mystery of Ingersoll Lockwood. And most of that book is mostly about what we were talking about tonight, the time travel stuff. And tonight's discussion didn't even begin to cover everything that's in this book.
No.
The Mystery of Ingersoll Lockwood is not about Donald Trump. It touches on Donald Trump. That's why he's on the cover. But it's not about Donald Trump. Okay? His books are not about Donald. Despite what the Q folks and the folks some years back were.
Well, speaking of audiobooks, Sidvich, we are about halfway through the first one.
No, we're beyond halfway through the recording.
The recording part.
The recording.
Cleanup. And our first one is Veiled Destinies.
Yeah, where is it?
Down below. On the shelf down
there. Keep talking.
Sorry. So, we're a little more than halfway through on Veiled Destinies, Secret Missions 5. And that will be the first one we release. Have we decided on the next one? We haven't talked about it yet.
We've talked about a few. We haven't decided what the next one will be. We want to get this one well on its way to being out there.
And can you talk about the translation of... No, we are going to translate that one.
Oh, you mean the Juan Cabrillo book?
Yes.
This one here. This one is going into Spanish language, folks. Secret Missions, The Hidden Legacy of Old California is going to be in Spanish language. So we're kind of excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because, Mexico gets forgotten about quite a bit, unfortunately. It does in the English language and all of this. And Juan Cabrillo is a very major.
This will be. This will be.
You're just gonna go like that.
Oh, that will be offered in a French translation. In the
yes,
it's on the list.
Yes,
but it'll be a French translation for obvious reasons. But also Spanish.
Spanish too, yeah. We'll go Spanish first.
So we're reaching out. We're getting, I have a really good catalog of books since 2008, my nonfiction works. And, there's a whole rest of the world that we think will find these books interesting. And so we're working on that.
Yes.
But the audiobooks as well.
They're coming along. Audio, we're going through first time figuring it out and how it works and everything, but it doesn't seem too bad. As of today,
Jeremy Rice, alien scientist, has received his sample of Mariposite. Now, if you recall, I announced on their show, on Burn Eye's show, that I and Maliah and Olaf Phillips conclude or suggest or propose or suspect that Mariposite is the mineral key to the mysterious soup liquid that Peter Menace of the Sonora Aero Club used in the turbine process that effectively provided anti-gravity propulsion for the Del Shal arrows, as you know them. And Jeremy Rice and the guys are going to test this in their lab. And Jeremy should have received that today, the Mariposite sample. And folks, I am anxious to see what is Bernay in there now, or Crypto
No,
Alchemist?
he was there this earlier, but
yeah. So we're anxious to see what, if any, result they get. Of course, they will reduce the Mariposite to a powder, and then they will liquefy that
and put it through a turbine and see what
per
happens.
Peter Menace's instructions, and we will see.
I'm excited about that.
If we've solved a big solution. By the way, if we do a big solve, the mystery of the soup liquid. So, shall we go to some questions?
Yeah, we got one from Philip Blair chiming in.
Philip Blair never asks questions. He's always so quiet. He's a church mouse. Okay, folks, please.
Oh, and Dee's got one too, right above that.
All caps.
And Dion.
No, that's not a question.
Dion's not?
Dee Dee's is, or D.
okay.
Dorothy.
Sorry.
Is there a way to show us the Mariposite sample? No, because we sent it to Jeremy. Smart ass D.
I think we showed it a couple times.
If you
but
go
it
back,
doesn't
I
come
think we
through.
did show it. Yeah,
Yeah.
look in one of the old videos there, D, and we might. The other European translations recommended for your Napoleon books too. Napoleon had a bit of an impact. Oh yes, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Modwiz says Delshow is more interesting than UFOs for me. Here, here. Yes, I agree, Modwiz. UFOs, the popular ufology has just become an abysmal dumpster fire clusterfuck bore. To be honest, the whole ET hypothesis culture and meme is just, oh my God. Oh my God. And of course, once it became Twitterized, you knew it would go down the toilet like a really bad turd. We did show the rock, says Dion. So yeah, go back, D. Dorothy, and you'll be able to see that. What is Tim Houston asking?
I'm not sure.
What is it again?
The soup? I'm not sure.
Oh, here we go. This is from Nick N. To clarify, is Charles Johnson's Hotel the Mission or another? Oh no, No. Charles Howard Johnson lived in the Union Square Hotel in New York. That was his residence, and he died there in his room and in his residential apartment. No connection to the Mission Inn.
No.
We just
just were wondering, speculating.
In the spirit of tonight's episode, we were just kind of all over the place. Diet Dazzle says, I need to know the pyramids are time travel machines. Well, Diet Dazzle, people in hell want ice water.
No, switch your comment over there to click on it. There you go.
God damn it. No, Diet Dazzle, I'm messing with you. We would like to know that too. I don't have the definitive answer for you. It sounds like that's a personal quest that you need to go on, pull the threads, and let us know what you find out. Solid wants to know, how does he join the Sonora Aero Club? Well, you're going to have to start by traveling back in time. Oh, don't you like how the theme comes right back to what the topic was?
Well, that's a good question, though. Do you think that
Tim, I get it.
Club even still exists? Is there still
in some form? There might be, descendants of these guys that were involved in the 1890s airship mystery, and maybe with the 1903 group. Yes, I've said that. I
wonder if Dave would be the one. Remember Captain Dave? Captain Dave, our storyteller. We got to bring him on the show here so we can introduce him to our Captain Dave.
Captain Dave
in Sonora.
Dave Allen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't think of him as Captain Dave. That's just a little lover's nickname that Olaf has for him for the radio show.
You silly. Well, I know quite a few of our listeners would like to hear from Dave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea, having Dave Allen on, of course. Yeah. Philip Blair asks, what does the bust of Napoleon symbolize? A retired military officer had the bust of Napoleon placed prominently behind him in an interview where he could not speak freely. Okay. First of all, Napoleon Bonaparte is still studied, at least I know of, in American war colleges because he was a brilliant military tactician and artillery officer. So military officers having a bust of Napoleon, that's usually why. Nick N. asks, any curious aspects to the Johnson Hotel architect or famous guests, etc. on Toulouse? I think I looked into that. You know what? I don't have it in the front files right now, but I can get an answer to you. When you asked that, what I thought was my personal joke with me is I wonder if when he faked his death in the 1890s and, zipped ahead to the, in the 20th century. Did he start the Howard Johnson's hotel chain? He got an idea. Hey, I'll start a hotel chain with diners in them, and I'll call it Howard Johnson's. And, maybe he made millions. Wouldn't it be interesting? Let's look up a picture of the Howard Johnson who started the Howard Johnson hotels.
I think he was Charles Howard Johnson even.
Oh, I don't know about that. I just know he's Howard, the name Howard Johnson. But wouldn't that be wild?
That's a good point, Nick. Thanks. Oh, remind about caps, because we may.
Oh, yeah, please, folks, all caps. If you want me to see it, comment it, or answer it. Philip Blair, what could he have been saying that he couldn't say by having Napoleon? So, I don't know. I would have to see the interview to know what it was about and get the full context. Solid says, my Diablo clan is named Nimza. Please join. Okay. I don't play Diablo. I play World of Warcraft.
I like Diablo.
She plays Diablo.
I like it. I played it way back when it first came out on PS1.
So, yes, Dion, you're behind. We already did that. The Howard Johnson hotels. In fact, let's look it up.
Okay, I'll be right back while you do that.
Howard Johnson. Howard Johnson's Wikipedia. Okay, here we go, folks. Let's see if there's any connection. In 1925, Howard Deering Johnson borrowed $2,000 to buy and operate a small corner pharmacy in Wollaston, a neighborhood in Quincy, Massachusetts. Close enough to New York, wouldn't you say? Johnson was surprised to find it easy to pay back the money lent to him after discovering his recently installed soda fountain had become the busiest part of his drugstore. He devised a new ice cream recipe. The others. Some sources say the recipe was based on his mother's homemade ice creams, while others say that it was from a local German immigrant. Maliah was just asking what happened to the Sonora Aero Club. Remember, they were German immigrants. Is it a coinkydink that possibly a German immigrant, one of these genius Sonora Aero Club inventor kind of guys, maybe gave Howard Johnson his ice cream recipe? Could it be? Johnson created 28 flavors of ice cream. And think about it. Just, 4 more flavors and we would have been, Johnson's 32 flavors instead of Baskin-Robbins 31. Think about it. Throughout the summers of the late 1920s, Johnson opened sold hot dogs, blah, blah, blah. He's featured clams and baked beans. I wonder if he sold bologna sandwiches. Please come home. I got beans and bologna. First Howard Johnson's restaurant received tremendous boom in 1920. So in the 1920s, but what? Where's his personal history? See, we start, okay. It talks about his hotel. Folks, I'm glad you're staying with me on this. It talks about his hotel chain and how he started it. We don't know anything, or do we? Okay, Howard Deering Johnson. Here we go. Here's a picture. Whew. For a second there, I thought we had another. Oh, isn't this interesting? It says he born on February 2nd, 1897. When did Charles Howard Johnson die? If I'm not mistaken, he died on July 3rd. Was it 1896? Oh boy. Where in the hell are, there they are. I need my glasses to find my glasses. 3 July 1896, Charles Howard Johnson, we are told, dies. There's no body. There's no gravesite. And Howard Deering Johnson is, we are told, born on February 2nd, 1897, which is what, 7 months later or so? Oh, isn't this interesting? Could we spin this into a thing? Think about it. Now we got to wonder, was Charles Howard Johnson, okay, was that the entities, to borrow from Edgar Casey, was that the entity's spirit, soul's identity, physical body he lived in before becoming Howard Deering Johnson? Could that be? There's a picture of Howard Deering Johnson. Doesn't look like Charles Howard Johnson. He served during World War I in the American Expeditionary Force in France. Okay. I wonder. So, now it says here that he passed away in 1972. So, it's conceivable that Charles Howard Johnson, if his consciousness jumped into the ether and then he chose to be born in the body of this Howard Deering Johnson in February of 1897, just months later. And then when he dies as Howard Deering Johnson in 1972, he jumps into another body and is clearly young enough to have been alive in 2016. This is the fun you can have with this kind of stuff. This is what pulling threads is. I think I should dig into this more. So, yep, 1897. So, there we are. Maybe Gringo Fett asks or says, maybe the Howard Johnsons were safe houses for Nimza. You know what? We would cross country a lot on family vacations when I was a kid, and we'd see Howard Johnson's, and my dad would never stop there. I don't want to go to Howard Johnson. As a kid, I'm like, hey, let's go to Howard Johnson. Why? Because it had the same shade of, remember, the Howard Johnson colors are like a light blue and a medium orange, right? These were very similar. These two colors were in the Disneyland palette. So in my child's mind, it was like, hey, it's the colors of Disneyland. That was one of my triggers. Here's what we found out. Did you hear?
No, I was.
Okay. Charles Howard Johnson, we are told, dies on the 3rd of July, 1896. But Howard Deering Johnson, Howard Johnson's of the Howard Johnson's Hotels, is born in February of, what did I just say? 1897. Just months after Charles Howard Johnson, we are told, dies.
Okay, well,
we're just saying.
It's another flag.
It's another flag.
Who's that?
You're right, Nick. Sometimes random thoughts lead to strange areas. They do indeed. So.
There's another.
Oh. And Howard Johnson, we're catching up Maliah on this, remember? Howard Johnson, he came up, he realized that in his store, his soda fountain was making him more money than what he was selling in the store on the shelves. So he also started to come out with ice cream. And his ice cream recipe was so successful that he was the Baskin Robbins of his day. Okay? Now, it is said, he claimed that he got the ice cream recipe from his mom or his grandmother. But others say that a German immigrant gave him the recipe.
Sonora.
Those Germans.
It's been all day because the Christmas candy came
Here's
out.
the ice cream recipe I will give you, Mr. Johnson. It will make you very successful. That's a terrible sprockets.
Solid says heavenly hash. Fish.
My God, Nick N has come up with it. We now know what the bell actually was. It was an ice cream maker. We need to tell Joseph Farrell.
Duh.
The bell, yeah, like the. Oh my God, Nick! It's the secret to German ice cream. Oh, you figured it out. You're not supposed to know that. You figured out the bell. The Glocke makes the ice cream.
And baklava. No, wait, that's
No,
Italian.
wrong. Baklava is not Italian. It's Mediterranean.
Okay. It's good.
The Glocke makes it. I can't think of a word.
It's lost. It'll take us a few episodes of doing this Friday night to kind of
Heavenly Hash Nimza connection, I hope. So, okay, folks. I think we've done enough of this nonsense for the evening. Hey, you know what? Michael Dark, our friend Michael Dark. Hello, Michael.
Hey,
How
Michael.
are you? He's got a good point, too. The green soup or mint or pistachio. Maybe the secret to pistachio ice cream and mint is the green soup. Mariposite. Putting mariposite. See, it's... We can now connect...
Well, it's actually... Here's the thing, too. I keep trying to bring up with the Mariposite is that because it's talc-based or mica-based, which is where we get talc from, it's ingestible. It's edible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could be
Simple
onto
Green.
something.
Maybe Simple Green, which you can use to brush your teeth, is also a byproduct of the Sonora Aero Club.
And wait, what is Sid say right after that? I was trying to read that. Do you see that big one? There you go.
Like Horn Helmet Vikings and Illuminati all invented between 1640 and 1720. No mention whatsoever about any of that before. The winner always writes the story. Vikings got stuck a lot in the forest. Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Renee, Mrs. Johnny Side. So, okay, that's it. We got to get ready. We got some important business to do tomorrow.
Oh, can we talk about Temecula?
Yes, so please do. Maliah has an announcement about an upcoming activity.
Can I show the strange book that goes with it?
Yeah.
So Walter talked about a couple weeks ago having one of his experiences in downtown Redlands in the same area that we were talking earlier in the show, the weird, strange time travel, I call it a time-space continuum of downtown Redlands Square. Mm-hmm. There's 3 clocks set to a very unique timing. Mm-hmm. So while passing through that, he got the buzz. I got the buzz at the same time that we needed to keep walking forward. And then as soon as we got past that area, you knew exactly where we were going.
And your buzz wasn't blunt induced.
No. No, not that time. Anyways, one of the books of the 4 that he buzzed on and went right to in an antique shop in a back corner, like it was pretty strange that
this is something that happens to me from time to time.
Like literally come off the shelf
antique
to
stores.
Us. Was this one. And this is called The Pride of Palomar by Peter B. Kine. It was published in
It'll be on the other side on the first little page.
1921, which is hugely relative to my research into Alma Reed, being right around the years when she first appears in Yucatan. Peter B. Kine has a lot of implications also into our research. So we find this book, The Pride of Palomar, and I think it's the first edition, right?
Yeah. Might be the only edition.
Yeah, it's a only edition, first edition. And shortly after, Walter sends me an invitation to the Hotel of Palomar paranormal investigation in Temecula, California. Kind of interesting. I want to go. So I got the tickets. We're going to Palomar investigation in Temecula.
Mm-hmm. The Palomar Inn.
The Palomar Inn, correct. And we will be, can I tell them? We're taking the dust of...
No, do not.
No, okay. So we will be doing some different communicating. Seeing if we can communicate with interesting figures.
Necromancy.
Yeah. So we'll let you guys know how it goes because it's hopefully going to give us some results into some of the Empire of the Wheel mystery. Is what we're going for. We're trying to make some connections there. So that's the big news. On Friday, Friday night, we're still going to live stream next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to try.
And
it's always a try.
We'll hop on while we're down in Temecula too.
Yeah, we like to, when we go out on the road, we like to do little shorts and jump you on the road, post pictures and stuff in the community tab. When we're on investigations or on the road, hopefully, yeah, it should be pretty fun. It's a little bit of a trip for us to get down to Temecula, but not too bad.
It's only an hour.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not that far. So this should be fun.
Yeah, that'll be next weekend. So, hey, folks, this coming Wednesday on the live stream is Joseph Farrell. Joseph Farrell is scheduled, and we will be talking about transtemporal cosmic communication. So, very excited. This coming Wednesday, what's the date? The 15th is another transtemporal cosmic technology discussion with our friend, Dr. Joseph Farrell. So don't miss that, okay? That's going to be a good one. And let's see.
Well, in answer to Dee's question, I think you're asking about Pride of Palomar. It's a possibility. We could look in the about republishing it and putting it in our
yeah, if you're reading the book, if it's worthy
domain. We got to see if there's a text in public domain, and
there's some interesting historical stuff in there that kind of, I was like, whoa, okay,
yeah.
So, that it's possible because it is 1921. It is public domain.
Yeah, it should be. We should be able to get text to it, but we'll have to look into that. If it turns out to be relative enough into the research for Lost Continent Library, we will consider it.
Classic reprint.
If you're talking about Todd Wood's book, The Ingersoll Lockwood, it's currently not available. We're working on a redesign for the cover, and we will be re-releasing the link soon.
It will be out again
and be able to purchase it. But I think you can still get it like on Amazon and stuff. There
might be a Kindle.
There might be a Kindle.
There are a few Kindles out there that I allowed to be out.
And if you really, really, really want it and you can't live without it, send us an email at lghservicesllc@gmail.com, and we will probably figure out a way to get you a link.
And for the bargain basement price of $1,499,
Stop it.
You'll get an autographed copy. No. It won't be my autograph. We'll just, it'll be the autograph.
Speaking of, we have been talking about how to get you guys autographed copies of Walter Bosley's books. And we're formulating a plan to where you'll be able to order it from the website, walterbosley.com, pretty soon here. So
just saying.
Hopefully you like the sound of that. We want to do the insert title cards, right?
No, they're called book plates.
Book plates.
You remembered.
Yeah.
Book plates
You proud of me?
are the practical way. So what it will be is an autographed book plate, which I have considered selling those, just those that you can put into your already owned Walter Bosley book.
Right. that too, but I like the idea of it's more personal when you
Yeah,
order
yeah.
the book
I would
and
rather,
you get the plate
if
with
you want
it.
an autographed book, you order it, and basically, as you guys know, I do print on demand services. I'm a very small company. Okay, I'm me, one employee. Okay, I'm a micro press, and this digital age has allowed me to be in business, and print on demand distribution works best for me. So what does that mean? Because I have people asking me, I don't have boxes of my books. Okay, when my books are released, I don't I don't have the capital to do this. But I don't have boxes of my books. As you guys know, you order them online, they print them, they ship them to you. However, these autographed copies, how it will work is we will order a number of copies of the books, okay, that will take care of getting them autographed, either
Book
signing the book
plates.
itself or book plates.
Well, book plates.
Um,
Yeah.
and then it'll be shipped again to you. Now, it won't be obviously in that. It won't be the same price as if you just order and
Obviously.
it ships to
Yeah.
you because got to cover the expenses of twice shipped and such, and the book plate kind of thing. But
And the
if
handling.
you value an autographed copy of one of my books, then believe me, we're going to keep it as reasonably priced as possible.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because that's what I do. I write books and
And movies.
and movies and stuff. And remember, you buy a book, you get the physical book. You don't have to agree with everything that's in it. Okay, it's look. You get a book and you don't like the book, you have not been ripped off because you paid your money for the physical book. Okay, you get that book. Again, I mean, we've all read books that sucked. We've all paid to go see movies that sucked. You don't get a refund because you hated the movie. You know, that's you roll those dice, and
Right.
it doesn't mean you've been ripped off or grifted because you disagree or don't think something in a book is true. So let's make sure the characterization of writing books is not tainted any further by the spirit of the way our community is eating its own kind of thing. So that's all I'm saying. Um, but I went off.
But we will definitely let you guys know when Todd Wood's book, and Walter Bosley's, they worked together on that one.
The
Ingersoll
and
Lockwood
and we
is
also worked on the follow up,
available
the
again.
mystery of Margaretta Todd, or the curious case of Margaretta Todd, and
Very
we're
good read.
going to be having another one come out. It's
Yeah.
just that things have been busy. We've been on the move. As you know, the channel has improved greatly, and thanks to Maliah. And
you.
we're going to be doing even more stuff: the translated books, the audio books, some video stuff that we're working on.
Yeah.
I just want to start getting more and better, out there. So there's that.
Yep. All right.
Okay, that's it, folks. I want to thank everybody in the live chat for being here, and thanks for your patience. Um, and yeah, I wanted to put that on there. Nick, yeah, Lulu, Lulu does an excellent job. These books are good quality.
do.
They're just as good as anything you get on a brick and mortar store, okay, or from a huge major. And they are not my publisher, okay. Lulu is a printer distributor, okay. They are not a publisher. So
You
don't
are the publisher.
don't be hard on people who use Lulu, okay? Because for a micropress one-man company like myself, like mine, it's a godsend. It allows me to be in business and be a publisher. So,
Wait, wait, 1 second.
oh, we're not leaving yet.
1 minute. Figure out what it is. We have a request for the channel mascot over here. Tiggy's not gone. He's still here.
The headphones are going to come flying off and yank the microphone down.
There's our Tiggy.
Here he
monster.
is. Here's the buddy. Hey, buddy.
Slightly just woken up, but
I was asleep. What the hell? I was asleep. Yeah, give me a kiss. No?
no. It's like, no.
Are you angry? He's not happy. He was a little sleeping baby.
Oh, it is a hug. So, hey, baby.
That little tail wagging that skinny little butt. Okay, folks. Well, thanks again, everyone. And remember, this coming Wednesday, Joseph Farrell, Transtemporal Cosmic Communication Technology. You guys are going to love it, as usual. And we'll see you then. Have a good night.